Hi, it's Grandpa Bill again. A parable is a story that points to a truth. And well, I wrote one. Would you like to hear it?
He was warmer than a summer breeze. He was softer than his silver hair. He was brighter than the twinkle in his eye as he rested in his easy chair. And I remember how he used to smile and tell me all about the folks back then. And if I had my way, I'd be there today, and I'd do it all over again.
This is part one of Grandpa Bill's parable. There was a king who not only loved those who lived in his kingdom, but he loved those who lived far away from his kingdom as well. Well, this mighty king desired that everyone he loved would be able to live with him in his beautiful, peaceful kingdom, even those living far away. But when he looked upon these people, he discovered that his dream of having them come and live with him in his kingdom couldn't come to pass as long as they were unable to see how wrong their lives were. You see, this king was so good that he had decreed that no one could live in his kingdom if they had ever done anything wrong. And the penalty would be death. However, the king's love was so great that he sent the people rules to live by, because they needed to understand why they could never live in the king's beautiful kingdom if their lives didn't change. The people needed to see and understand that every inclination of their hearts was evil all of the time. And to pay for that evil, they would have to die. The king used these new rules as a mirror so that the people could compare their lives to lives that were perfect. The king hoped that one day the people would be able to realize three things from his rules. First was that their very nature was to do evil, so they simply couldn't help but to turn to evil from time to time. And second was that not one of them could ever hope to live a perfect life, free of evil, and live in the kingdom like the king wanted. And the third was without help. There was no hope for them. The king in his wisdom, though, hid within his rules certain acts or chores for them to do that pointed to the hope that they needed to find. For instance, some of the rules required them to sacrifice their very best animals to pay for the wrong they had done. The animal would be brought before them, and they would lay their hands upon the animal, and their sin would symbolically be transferred to the animal just before it paid for their sin through its death. Life wasn't easy at that time because those animals were their livelihood. And the loss of one, their best animal especially, was very difficult for them. So to top it off, there was also a problem with this method of payment for the debt of sin. You see, if they sinned, another sacrifice was needed, because a sacrifice, the loss of this animal, only paid for past sins. In time, their evil should have exposed completely that the people would have to turn to the king for help. They needed someone to save them from themselves, because for them it was impossible to live completely free from evil. And only a man who lived a perfect life and then volunteered to die in their place could pay all of their debt for their past sins, their present sins, and even their sins in the future. Not a person in that land could do that. So the king sent his one and only son to accomplish this task for them. Well, the king's son came, and he not only showed them how to live, he made it known that he was to be that replacement for the sacrifices the people had to make constantly. He also taught the few who followed him what was needed to build a church with a solid foundation, so that people could receive the Son's future gift of eternal life in his Father's kingdom. None of the teachers of the rules wanted to believe the king's son was really who he said he was, even though he showed them great, marvelous works and wonders. They pretended to be blind to the truth that only the king or his son, his one and only son, could accomplish such great things. The teachers of the rules had become like a den of snakes. They did that by bending the rules so that they could have power, wealth, and many rewards for themselves alone. And then they used their power to condemn and control others. Well, the king's son saw through their evil schemes, and he told them so. This caused the teachers of the rules to fear their loss of control over the people. They feared it so much that they planned to kill the king's son. They never realized that this was the plan all along. Well, when the time was right, they succeeded in torturing and killing the king's son. But the king's son didn't stay dead. In fact, in 3 days, he was raised back to life, never to die again. The one and only Son of the King paid the price of death for the people's sin so that they might live. And out of love, he now offers eternal life to all who will believe upon his name. Well, this truth became the solid foundation of his church. And like any parable, this one points to a wonderful, marvelous truth. And if you would like to investigate and find out what this truth is, pick up a Bible and do some reading. I've left you some pointers, some verses to look up in the description box to help you in your search. It will be a blessing for you because you too can have eternal life in this wonderful kingdom with the King. Have a